Patrick Gavin. I saw a video of Miscavige on Ted Koppel's Nightline show in 1992. As a guy who was in, did you watch it? And did you and everyone else think at the time that COB knocked it out of the park and defeated Koppel? The main thing I got out of it, after all of my exposure to Scientology critics, is that his really poor education was on full display. It was a disgrace. Koppel maneuvered him into so many corners, and other than changing the subject, he never escaped one of them. Okay, couple points on this one. Yes, I did watch it back in the day when it first came out in 1992, and of course we all loved it, right? As Scientologists, we all thought he definitely knocked it out of the park, and he did a great job. And of course, Miscavige, I think, later bragged about something about I think that was an Emmy Award-winning show, Nightline, and that episode I think was the one that got the Emmy. I think. And I heard that Miscavige was bragging about how he had gotten Koppel an Emmy. I actually rewatched it before I did this Q&A show here today and to address your question. And I'm going to disagree with you on the point that Miscavige comes off as an uneducated idiot. Just the opposite. You know, he uses phrases and words and things that indicate that he definitely has education. And it definitely is coming at this from a fairly good, from a public relations point of view. He actually didn't do too bad of a job. He was, of course, talking to Scientologists, but this was also a period of time when the church was honestly trying to reach out more to the public, and Miscavige thought that this would be a good way to get the church's good name and good image out there to the public. And you know, of course, that didn't really fly so well. And this was also at the time when the Time magazine article had come out in 91, I think it was. And the church had spent, I think $3 million, he said, on this 12-week advertising campaign in USA Today, where they did promote the principles of Dianetics and Scientology quite broadly on huge full-page ads in USA Today. And this went on for weeks. So that was a real honest effort on the part of the church to get the word out about what Scientology is and sort of diffuse the false data that they thought, that was being propagated about the church, when really it wasn't false data. It was just, the dark side of the church, the abuses and the financial crimes and stuff like that the church has always been engaged in was being exposed. And so the church was like, well, we're going to tell you our side. And that was the sort of cherry on top of the whole thing, was Miscavige agreeing to go on to Koppel's show. He basically didn't do any worse of a job than almost any other, spiritual leader, church leader, cult leader, or politician I've seen. And, and in fact, some of his answers were a little bit more on point than others. Some, of course, were complete and utter lies. No question about it. I mean, whenever they got anywhere near Hubbard talking about crazy stuff, Miscavige deflected. He even said that there was a lecture where Hubbard had been talking about, flying around in the Van Allen belts. And Hubbard literally meant that. Well, Hubbard wasn't joking around in his lecture. And Miscavige tried to diffuse that by saying, well, I've never heard that lecture. I don't know what you're talking about. That's no part of modern Scientology. Total lie. But, of course, that's where they went. And Koppel actually didn't pursue that line of inquiry as hard as I, in retrospect, wish he had, because they could have pursued the whole Xenu narrative and all of that as well, and gotten Miscavige on record denying that maybe that Xenu was part of Scientology. That would have been interesting, if he cornered him on that. And he did corner him on quite a few things. So so I'm not trying to come off here as a Miscavige apologist or defender, because I'm not. You guys know I'm not. I'm just trying to say that I didn't think he came off as poorly as maybe you did. Oh yeah. And there's one other thing I want to comment on here about this, and this is more to the broader picture of this stuff. Because I was absolutely convinced when I watched that, and so were many other Scientologists, that he had done an Oscar-winning performance, that it was brilliant, and he was wonderful. And the reason for that, of course, is because I was watching all of that with my confirmation bias fully in place, that Scientology were the good guys, and David Miscavige was the leader of Scientology, so he was the white knight. And so I interpreted everything he said through that lens. And the framing, the lensing, that is really important. That's really important. Because you watched that after being exposed to my work, Tony's work, Mike, Leah, as you said in your question. So you knew that everything he was saying was total horseshit, right? I mean, you knew that already. But for somebody who didn't and watches that fresh and new, which is kind of the perspective I tried to take in rewatching it to answer this question, I saw that he came off as lucid, literate, responsive, argumentative, but in a way that felt like if he really believed all the things he was saying about the conspiracies and the government coming after Scientology and all of that, and it looked like he did. I believe that at the time that Miscavige gave this interview that he was still a true believer in Scientology. I don't think he was faking it when he was doing on all the things he was saying in this interview. I think he really believed what he was saying. I think Miscavige's fall from belief comes years after this. I think it actually started or became a thing around the time that the whole Lisa McPherson debacle occurred. I think that's when he started seeing that this was not, really the deal. Anyway, so that's all I want to say about that. But I hope that answers your question a little bit or addresses it and gives you, maybe some things to think about.